I see a whole gamut of soccer injuries from children, youth, recreational injuries to collegiate and elite athlete injuries. A lot of them do involve the lower limbs of the body for soccer athletes because the sport is so leg dominant.
They're pouring forward here. Look at Cooper and Henry galloping down the centre of the field. Bellucci plays it forward. It's too strong. It was a slip from Thierry Henry in the end. And he's grabbing the back of his leg. Marufo has halted proceedings. Well, this will be a phenomenal shame. Thierry Henry has scored his 9th goal of the season today.
And Hans Bachler, right when he went down, looked over to Pecky. He's got the no card out and just started shaking his head right off to my right. And here's a look at it on a full sprint. And he makes a little move right here. And that's when it goes. You can see he makes that cut and feels it on his right hamstring. Immediately goes to grab that right hamstring. And it does not look good for the New York Red Bulls right now.
Pensive times for the Red Bulls. I've given you their injury list already in the broadcast so far. They are struggling. They're down to 6 on the bench, Kyle, aren't they? They don't have a full 18 to put out. A shake of the head may say it all for Thierry Henry. Have we just seen the signal there, Kyle, for the substitution?
Yeah, looked like he gave that universal signal that he wasn't going to be able to continue. And anytime you see a player untouched fall down, and the way he's getting up, he's favoring that right leg a lot. He looks to be in a lot of pain.
For the time being, that is not a good sign for Thierry Henry, for Red Bulls fans.
Yeah, he just walked right by me going down the tunnel, and he is moving so slow, and he's covered his face a couple times with his left hand, and a lot of pain, and I'm sure just a lot of disappointment.
Yeah, injuries always do, and almost always injuries are sometimes it can be a rallying point for a team, but usually they're a negative. Usually they're not good for a team's morale. So it's often the morale gets knocked down from that. We lost our best player. The only positive I ever see is that a lot of times it gives people a chance who haven't had as much playing time sometimes come in and play. So that's the big plus that I see on that. But that's other than that, it kind of takes the whole team's morale down. It kind of hurts their performance as a whole.
Young visionary. My secretary finna be a millionaire. I'ma call her military. Finally famous military, and I rap that till I.
Depending on the injury and the cause of the injury, severity of the injury, if it is, for example, if it is a traumatic injury, if it heals properly, usually there's no problem with it re-injuring. If it's a misuse or an imbalance injury or an overuse injury, if you don't correct the situation or the behavior that got you there, either be a tactical, there's a great chance you can re-injure that again.
So like a hamstring pull or a
hamstring pull,
muscle tears?
Yeah.
Yep.
A hamstring is a great example. There's a balance between your hamstrings and your quadricep muscle. It's a 40-60 balance. If you're training improperly or you're just strictly doing just soccer-based things, you're going to be more likely to actually injure a hamstring again and again and again, especially if you don't give it enough time to rest and to heal up, and you don't change whatever you're doing, or maybe even cross change, train a little differently to actually overcome that imbalance. Preventing injuries. Becoming very sophisticated in sports now, especially when you get to more elite athletes. In prevention, good things are like pre-season evaluations to find out if there is any imbalances or anything like that. The athletes themselves, warming up, make sure they're sufficiently warm, not just jumping on a field cold. Make sure after they warm up a little bit, they stretch then. They don't cold stretch, they stretch after they've warmed up a little bit. We found that cold stretching, just getting out of stretching, can actually cause more injuries than not. And that's something that's just changed over the last 5 years. And before that, we used to always say stretch first and then do that. Also, cooling down when you, after you've performed, even stretching after you've, especially if you have an injury, stretching after you've practiced or after you've been training.